the most important thing which makes the Syrian experience of being online is utterly different other than other experiences, and other people who are using internet, is that Syrians at the moment have lost the physical contact with their home, or the notion of home, because most of them are on an asylum, and they are not, whether due to security reasons or whether due to mere logistics, they are not able of going back home. So it means that they have to establish some sort of a parallel or an alternative. And they have to form some sort of an identity cloud where they can just keep safe the notion of home, or the concept, or even the whole feeling of having a home somewhere, online. At least we have this possibility until home is back, the physical home is back. And that's something actually is, as far as I can think, it is unprecedented. It never happened before, not because people were not on diaspora before, but rather because the possibility of having that online communication so immediate and so effective, it was not possible before. And therefore they can actually really load their concept of home somewhere on an identity cloud, as I wanted to say, until the physical home is back. For instance, because the quality of communication, it's not only the how quick we can communicate, it's not that the efficiency of the communication, but also the quality. We're physically connected within the realm of online, where we can see each other. The voices are so much close to each other. It's not even a phone experience. We hear the breath of who is talking to us. We share the laughters. We share the emotions. So everything is so intense as a human experience, and therefore the possibility of really having that alternative home is actually very, very. We are living this experience on a daily basis.
Have you seen the progress of building the digital home?
We did have that online communication even before the crisis had broken out. But we lost the offline home afterwards. So our experience, our online experience, was already established. So it's as if I would even put it as if the online home is the eternal one, while the physical one, or the offline one, is the vulnerable one, which we could actually and unfortunately, of course, lose. Within 1 or 2 years. The very specific thing about the experience of being a subject, I don't like to use the word victim, because I'm not a victim of any kind. I'm safe. I'm healthy. So the truth about being a subject of a civil war, or a turmoil that developed into a situation of a civil war, is that you lose the connection with time. The crisis in Syria started as peaceful demonstrations, and we're all were hopeful that a political change will take place sooner, as we all thought. So we were postponing the ordeal, whether consciously or subconsciously. We always used to think, okay, we used to say to each other, it's going to be like in 2 months, in 3 months. No way that the international world community will leave the Syrians to their fate. There must be some sort of intervention. There must be some sort of a political settlement. So it's going to be over within the next 3 or 6 months, a year. And we all somehow build our future according to this uncertain yet very dramatically changing sense of time. I always used to analogize that. It is the same when you are in a car that drives, that goes, and the thing is that you are changing your location every second while you're still stand still. So you're stand still, you're sitting, you're in an inertia, while time is moving so quickly because you are moving with this car. And that was exactly the way I felt, especially at the beginning of my diaspora, my personal diaspora, is that I couldn't really feel the time anymore. And being online also, that contributed to that loss of time, because as we always had the intermediate connection to our beloved ones, our relatives, friends, whoever, we couldn't also be really aware of the fact that we have lost our offline home. You know? So it's the acceleration of the event as such, being a subject of a civil war, a civil clash, and add to that being expelled, being forced to leave, and also being constantly online with other Syrians, that altogether had somehow distorted the experience, or simply made it just unprecedented, as I think. No, and I think that we are still living. We're still living. I think we're still living that kind of delusion. You know, I don't know whether other people, nations, societies who experienced civil wars before had the same experience, but I find it very special.
Probably because earlier there was no internet.
I think the internet has, from one hand, helped Syrians to whether stay in touch, whether to exchange informations, whether to load their identity on a cloud, as I previously explained or analogized. But on the other hand, it distorted the experience of being a subject of a civil war, because it has contributed to the loss of time, you know, loss of the sense of time. Somehow you are in the realm of reality, you're in a diaspora, but online, nonetheless, you're still living with those people. You still haven't left. So the question is, as if the online society, at least for Syrians now after this huge ordeal, is somehow more real than the physical notion of home that we used to have. You know, I put it in a very poetic. It might not sound very comfortable for many people. You know, this due to very patriotic emotions and so forth. But from a very, I would say, a metaphorical perspective, I find it a very interesting notion, and also additionally to that, I find it also a proof of the of the vanishing of the physical borders that we grew up believing in. So it is true. It is true that we don't need those borders anymore, and that somehow is an evidence of the new world. You know, the Syrian civil war is maybe the first postmodern conflict, and the first conflict that is run by the new mechanics. It's very interesting, for instance, why the Syrian regime kept the internet. You know, they could simply disconnect the Syrians who still live within the territories that are controlled by the regime. But somehow it is all now that the online sphere is over us. We have no more control of what's going on, and definitely it helps a lot. But as I said, yeah, it really distorts that the classical way we used to perceive home and what it means to be away from home.
Would you say that's because in the internet you're free, there's no censorship?
It's very difficult to say, because definitely the Syrian regime is a totalitarian regime by nature, and they had always censored everything. But the problem is with censorship in the online society is that once somehow you need to know how your rivals think, and therefore you need to allow them to speak. So there is a new form of censorship in the online society. I would say that it's allowed now more than any time before to say what you want, but what you say is on surveillance more than any time before. So this is the new equation now. It means that you may say whatever you want, but you have to know that once you use the media of internet to say it, you are definitely observed.
Do your friends who still live in Syria adjust to that?
The Syrians had already brought up in a totalitarian atmosphere, so they are somehow trained by nature to censor themselves. Probably that's something you don't know here in Europe, but I think that every Syrian was born, especially during the late 60s until my time, and even younger generations. She or he is born with a Secret Service agent planted in her or his brain. So the censorship is not only implemented by the authorities, but it has become also a way of life. And that's something also should be a major task, especially for Syrians who left Syria now due to the civil war, and they are spread all over the world, and many of them live in the Western world. And so they have to deal with this planted foreign corp, like the planted security agent, which is no longer needed. So as long as this security agent planted in our brains, we censor ourselves automatically. And the scale of censorship also differs. For instance, those who know that they still have relatives back home, whether under the control of the regime or now under the control of the ISIL, for instance, and they still have online contact with them, they measure what they say a lot more than those who are already sure that all relatives are either gone, I mean they're dead, killed, or they're somewhere else, far, then they are more courageous to say what they want. So the scale of censorship, as long as it's now up to the people to decide, it's no longer up to the higher authority, is measured by the specific situation of every individual.
Thank you very much.